Alright everybody, so today we might be doing something a little bit different here. So, as you'll notice, this is not Minecraft, and it's probably never anything you've ever seen before. But I was thinking that I might see if I can expose people to maybe some new games. This is a game that I've been playing since I was a child, and I love it. I'll play it anytime anybody asks, just because, I don't know, it's really just one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I feel like everybody has games like that, but this is for sure one of the ones for me. And so I was just thinking, today's probably going to be a video just with me, just solo, and just going to play and talk about it. So, Axis and Allies we have here is actually this really big like board game, but the online version goes a lot quicker, and obviously you don't have to set anything up, so it's more simple, and it's just really kind of easier to use. So it's a historical game set during World War II, and you can either play as the Axis or the Allies, so the other powers are played by the computer. So I think I'll just be the Allies for today, and then we'll play with the Larry Harris version because it's newest. So you see here, simple version. Everything's already set up for you. If you're playing the board game, this big old board game, you've got to set up all the pieces. But nice enough, they're already all set up for us. So I'll kind of go over some basic stuff here. So basically you get your units here. We have infantry, artillery, tanks. As you can see, we're in the buy phase over here, so they're over here as well. You use these units to attack other territories and capture them. Now, you can see the circles with the number in them. That is the territory's value. So you can see here West Russia has a value of 2, and as the color indicates and the name indicates here, it is owned by the German player. The gray also indicates that it's under German control. As you can see, North Africa and most of Europe, almost all of Europe basically, is under German control here. You can see that the Russians are red, the Japanese are orange, the United States is green, and the British are yellow. Now, there is a phase, kind of. So you start out buying things. So, I have $24 or IPCs. That comes from a compilation of my territories. So all my little number values, we can see here with my main Russian territory, or like Moscow, having the most at 8. So, obviously it's going to be more pressing and more of like a more important to keep these territories rather than the other ones that are lesser, like these ones here on the eastern side that are only worth 1. They're still important because obviously anything that makes money is good, but you want to keep the higher valued stuff rather than the lower valued stuff when given the option. So, well, what to buy? It's kind of the question, and I mean, starting off, you're not going to know, but we can kind of just... We see that, like, Russia's a central power here, and so you're kind of going to want to focus on ground units as opposed to someone who's the United States. Like, the United States is surrounded by the oceans, right? With an ally to the north, but obviously you're not going to attack your ally. So you really have to focus more on the navy, whereas Russia, you're more land-based. So I think I'm just going to start us off here with 4 infantry and 3 artillery. This is really kind of the standard buy, because infantry, I like to think of infantry as your more kind of like shield unit. You can see here the stats of each unit. The infantry attack at a 1, which is the lowest value in the game, and they defend at a 2. So you kind of think as infantry is your shield, and the artillery here, which attack at a 2 and defend at a 2, are kind of like your sword, with also your tanks kind of being your sword, but they also move further, so I'm probably going to wait to buy those until the later rounds, possibly. Also, this is a dice-based game, so what the 1 means for the attack is, well here, I'll finish my buy phase. I'll show you how this combat works here in a second. So the infantry move at a 1, so they can attack anything in the red whenever I highlight them. So to start off, I'm just going to make a really big push into West Russia. There's a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is that West Russia directly borders my capital here and highest IPC value gaining territory. So I want to protect this at all costs, really, as the Russian player. If this territory falls, then a lot of things are going to come with it, and none of which are going to be good. So, there's a kind of a common, since the board is set up in the same way every time, there's kind of a common thing for you to do every time, and it's called the 9-12 attack. It's called this for a very simple reason. The person who named it wasn't very creative. You send 9 troops to Ukraine, and you send 12 troops to West Russia, and that's kind of it. So as you can see, literally everything that could get to Ukraine went. Planes move at 4, so I sent them, and then the infantry and artillery that were in Caucasus went here to Ukraine, and I sent the tank in Caucasus as well, and then the tanks in Russia went 1 to Caucasus and then 2 to Ukraine, using 2 movement points, because they have 2 movement points. So now we're going to go on to the combat here, and you see it kind of gives you a predictor. It says that we're strong on both battles. I guess it wouldn't be a standard opening if you weren't strong. So, this is how the combat works, which is kind of the main system of the game. You see here the infantry have a 1 value of a roll. So if we start the combat, we kind of get random generated dice. Okay. So that went really quickly. But if you noticed, we got no 1s for our infantry. And the artillery have a cool ability where they take 1 infantry with them, and then they both roll at a 2, so it's kind of like a buff. They go together. So we actually got 4 2s here. But as you saw, we did not roll anything there. So for this to hit, since these are both 2s, you have to have a 2 or less. And the tank gets a 3 or less. So your odds kind of go up as you get more, right? Because a 1 out of 6 is only about 17%, where as you get like a 2 or less, you get the 1 and the 2, so you're really kind of just doubling your odds there. And obviously, with a 3 or less out of 6, you're hitting at a 50%. So the higher attacking values, you're going to hit more often, and they're just better. And you see here, his infantry automatically defended a 2, so it's kind of like you're better off defending most of the time in this game, but if you're just defending, you're like not getting more IPC values, so you're kind of, I don't know, there's a balance that you kind of have to figure out in the game. It takes some time. It's not really easy. There we go, we got a really lucky roll there. We got a super lucky roll there. And these 5 hits are going to go to his 1, 2, 3, 4 units here, so we actually ended up taking out everything, which is really convenient. He's going to roll back. He hit nothing. So that's actually a great outcome there on the first attack roll. He loses 19 IPCs and we only lose 3. That's a great outcome. And we took the territory. As you can see, it changed from gray to red. Alright, took a little drink there, and we're on to the next battle. Okay, so this battle is a lot higher in the stakes department. So as you realized last battle, we had a lot of infantry, and then only one tank, right? But this battle, we have less infantry, but 2 planes and 3 tanks. The planes and tanks are really expensive units, and Russia does not have a lot of them. So this battle is very crucial, and it's very important to win. But also on the German side, they have a bomber and a fighter at risk. So it's really kind of a risk for both sides here. And it's really not... This could be a game-deciding battle depending on how it goes. We got 2 hits overall, which honestly, it's not the greatest roll. And he takes him off infantry. The infantry are the weakest. Well, technically not the weakest because the bomber rolls at a 1. The bomber attacks really high but defends really poorly, so there's kind of a trade-off there. The infantry are the least expensive by far, costing 3 IPC, and the bomber costs 12. So obviously if you don't have to give up the bomber, you don't want to. Okay, so we got a little bit lucky in return for our bad roll. He only hit 2 as well, so we're just going to take it off our infantry there. And we're going to press on because we're not hurting. Okay, another mid-roll, but... Okay. Ah, he gets a pretty good roll back here. Okay. So at this point, we're both into our high value units here. His next hit is going to be off a tank, and my next hit is also going to be off a tank. So now I have to look at who's going to get more hits, me or him. Well, I'm going to roll 4 3s, and he's going to roll 1 3, 1 4, and a 1. So I think I'm going to get more hits here, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, I got pretty unlucky. Again. So I have to bank off him hopefully missing one of the 2 of these, and it's not very likely he's going to hit this one. He's probably going to take this 1 off of his tank. Right, because the tank is worth 6. And this is worth 12, this is worth 10. So it's a smart move to take out the tank. He misses the tank, that's big. Okay, so we got 1 hit as well. Okay, so again we're going to look at what is kind of the value here. So my hit's going to be off... Okay, good roll there. My hit's going to be off the tank, and his... That's big, big dollar. Big dollars right there. Alright. Not the greatest outcome there, but as you can see, I lost 31 IPCs, he lost 41 IPCs. So if the scale is kind of tipped in my favor there, that's kind of what you want to see. So really, I'll take that outcome. Now, a mechanic about the planes is, they cannot capture the territory. Only ground units can capture the territory. And planes cannot land in a freshly taken territory. So you see, West Russia is not highlighted blue for them. They can't land there because it was just taken this turn. And they also can't stay in enemy territory for obvious reasons. So, what I typically like to do is send my planes up to this territory up here, where they can support this east side if necessary, or they can support this kind of southwestern side if necessary on the next turn as well. And then I'm kind of just going to push everything back towards my money-making territory, because this is kind of... The defense of this is really my main goal, in some senses. I'm also going to push that infantry down to support the Chinese, technically they're American in this game, fighters, because I need this territory to stand as well. Because after the Japanese push through China, then what's after China, right? It's these Russian territories, which they make money for me, and then that's closer to my capital. So we kind of just want to have like a little buffer there to keep them away as much as possible, and then we'll send our subs to support this UK fleet. Alright, so for mobilization, you see we have the beginning, the 4 infantry and the 3 artillery that I bought at the start of the turn. So the question is where to put them. Well, you can see these kind of like pulsing factory looking things. These are the only territories that I can put my units on. And then you see it's like out of 2, out of 8, out of 4. So it actually corresponds to the dollar value of the territory. Now if you look in Germany, for example, there's a little factory right here, right? So that means that they can place units here too, up to the dollar value of what's on the territory, which is 10. So at the end of the German turn, they can place 10 units in the German territory as well. So that's kind of how that works. So for me personally, I'm going to throw 2 infantry, 2 artillery in the Caucasus territory, and then 2 infantry, basically everything else, into the main Russian Moscow territory. And putting him in this Caucasus territory and maxing it out just kind of puts him on the front line and gives me some more opportunities here. And you might be noticing that I'm leaving the Northwest territory kind of bare and kind of up for grabs. And I'm doing that on purpose because you'll notice that Germany can get a lot of units there. So most of the time on the Russian turn, it's kind of just sending your guys to die if you leave anything up here, because you can also see the Germans have a number of air force, a number of tanks. There's a lot of units that can get there on that next turn, and it's really just not worth risking anything, I don't feel. Granted, it is a factory, but it's only a 2 capacity factory, so it's really not one of the good ones. So most times in my games, I just kind of let that be. And you see, we gained the West Russia territory, so we gained 26 IPCs there instead of what would have been 24. Okay, the AI goes pretty fast here. It's kind of hard to follow, and it's taking its battles. We can kind of see what's happening here. It's taking this battle, and it looks like we're going to get some pretty great rolls there. Okay, we keep our transport. 2 subs versus cruisers, not very good odds for us. Yeah, we lost that. Kind of to be expected. And then he's just kind of pushing everything east on my borders. I personally don't feel like the AI in this game is very good. And there's not really like a difficulty scale. I kind of just wanted to make this video to explain some of the rules maybe for beginners. Do a little playthrough of my own, maybe to see how it's played. And kind of overall just show what the game has to offer, because like I said, I love this game, and if I could convince anybody to play it, anybody new, I mean that would just be great, I feel like. So kind of what I'm trying to do here, doing my best at it. Alright, so it is now UK's turn. Now the UK player kind of has a lot to deal with here. They span the entire board, everything from New Zealand to Canada. So you really kind of got to look everywhere here. Now, they have a factory. Their 2 factories are in their United Kingdom and in India. So you can kind of focus Asia, or you could focus Europe, or you can kind of split both ways. It's kind of personal preference to some points, but sometimes I try and split it, which I might honestly consider doing this game as well. I think I'm going to. So I'll buy 3 infantry for the 3 capacity here in India. And then for my C units, I'll buy a carrier and a destroyer. This is my typical buy, so I'm not really going to sway from that this video. The point of that is I'm going to drop the 3 infantry in India to kind of bolster the defenses there, because Japan is a powerhouse. Japan's very difficult to deal with, and there's also not very much support over in this way. Like, there's no factories, really nothing to do. So you got to make sure that India is a little bit protected at least, so it doesn't fall immediately. I guess I should also explain how to win the game. I didn't really do that. So as you can see in the top, there is a victory city count. So the Axis have 7 out of 9, the Allies have 6 out of 10. So the Axis need 2 more victory cities, the Allies need 4. Now what's a victory city? Well, the victory cities have like the nation's flag. So you can see here the Germany territory, or Berlin, is a victory city. It has the Iron Cross. So does Paris. So does Rome. And then their most recently captured territory, Karelia, has a victory city in the form of Leningrad. So that puts Germany up to 4. And then you see here, the Japanese player has Tokyo, Shanghai, and Manila. So that makes their 7 out of 10. And then if they get 2 more, so let's say for example they get Calcutta here in India, and then they get Moscow, they win the game, right? Because they have 9 out of 9. So they win the game after they get their 9 out of 9 victory cities. So that's how you win the game in that sense. The same thing applies for the Allied players, but they have to get 4 instead of 2. It would be 3 on both sides, but I gave up Leningrad, which, as I explained previously, has some... It's definitely a decision, but I feel like it's the right one in most senses. I don't know, everybody has their own strategy. Alright, so I'm going to finish up my purchase phase here. And, like I said, kind of have to be all over the board. So I'll start here in the Asian theater, the Pacific theater. Well, the kind of more like the Indian Ocean theater. So, another mechanic, there's a canal here, and whoever owns both sides of the canal, you have to own both. Your ships can cross through there. So I'm actually going to use that mechanic on this turn because I own both sides. I'm going to take my little navy here because this is going to eat that up if I keep it there. I'm going to take it through the canal, and I'm going to try and fight off his little navy right here and take it out of the game. That's going to be a big thorn in my side that if I can remove, that's going to be big for the start of the game. Now there's not really a whole lot I can do over here, so I'm probably going to leave this area be, and then these are going to be in my maneuver phases, so I'll leave those be as well. Over here, we have a transport left over here, transport left over here, and a destroyer. So, submarines, by the way, every ship has a movement of 2 sea zones. So these sea zones are all connected to each other by like the dashed lines. So my destroyer can go 1 and then 2 to this sea zone with the subs. So the destroyer really limits the subs' capabilities. And it also, the most important thing here, is it allows planes to hit the submarines, which is what we're going to use for this. So we're really going to try and get these submarines out of here, and we're going to try and get that German Navy down to a minimum after this first turn. I'm also going to send my bomber over here to get rid of this transport. And you also got to think, where do you want your stuff to end up at the end of your turn? So, my planes are going 1, 2, so that means they have 2 movement left after this battle with the submarine. At the end of my turn, I plan on placing my aircraft carrier in Sea Zone 8. So my planes are going to go 1, 2, and then 3. So that's going to work, because the planes have 4 movement. So there's kind of lots of planning you have to do throughout your turn, which might be difficult in some senses. So what I just did there is I loaded up an artillery and I loaded up an infantry onto my transport. I moved my transport and then I dumped it here in Northwest Europe. I'm going to do the same, or at least similar thing over here. I'm going to load my transport, take it 2 spaces, load it again, and then dump it there in Northwestern Europe. So I'm doing an amphibious assault here on Northwestern Europe to try and take this territory. There's a few goals here. 1, this is going to take out a German tank. 2, it kind of just gives me more IPC value with the 2. Granted, he's going to take it back next turn because, I mean, it's right next to all this German clump, so he's definitely going to take it back. But in doing that, it's going to take some units away from this eastern front line, making the time to get there longer and taking a little bit of stress off the Russians. And anytime you can do that, that's normally something good that you want to do. So we're going to go ahead through with that plan. And I think that is going to conclude what I want to do for combat. So we're going to go through with that. Alright, so it starts here with my amphibious assault on northwestern Europe. And I really don't care what lives from this. I just want to take the territory and kill these German units. So I get one hit, which is fine. He gets a hit back. We'll take it off the infantry. And we're just going to stay here until everything dies, which is this turn. He gets a hit back, no biggie. Not really too upset about that outcome. And we still came out IPC positive. So good result there. Alright, now, it's very important that this one goes our way. We need these two ships out of the way. Alright, perfect. We got the perfect amount of hits for this battleship here. As you can see, the battleship is the only unit in the game with 2 HP, so you have to get 2 hits to take it down. It also costs 20 IPC though, so it's a very, very chunky ship. And it rolls at a 4. We got super lucky and it missed. So that is a great result there. Minus 27 IPCs for the Germans. This is turning out to be a really good turn actually for the British. I'm very fine with this so far. Okay, so here we can see. Alright, awesome. 2 hits out the bat. Both of these subs are gone. Let's see their hit back. Nothing. Alright, perfect. Perfect. Looking pretty flawless turn so far here for the British. And that is going to conclude the combat. I clicked out of it too quickly, but if you saw, the Germans lost 55 IPCs that turn, and the British only lost 6. Those type of numbers, seeing them like that is great. That really massive gap in IPC there, that's how you know a sign of like a really great turn. So that's great for the development here in the British and the whittling down of the Germans. So I have taken more units over into Egypt. Now that there's no more navy down here in the Mediterranean Sea, I'm gonna try and cut the German player out of North Africa. That's gonna be my next goal there with this little Mediterranean fleet. And then I think also, oh yes, I need to move these guys. So these guys are going to start their very long journey east until they eventually end up in Europe as well with my other fleet. And I'll move this guy back into safety, kind of consolidate there in India to protect his victory city. And then I think that's going to be the turn. Alright, so if you notice I move my planes into the water, it's actually to meet this aircraft carrier and give them some defense. So I'm defending these transports here. Because if these transports here die, then I have no way of getting units onto the land. So it's insanely crucial that I keep those transports alive. And then these 3 guys are all going to go in India, which since India's worth 3, that is the maximum amount of units I could put there. And I am going to call that a very solid turn for the British player. So Japan is going to act right away with some retaliation in China. And they're actually going to make an attack straight at India. But I have 8 infantry there, so it's definitely going to be a struggle for them. We'll see how that turns out. It's kind of looking like a suicide mission, but as I said, the AI in this game it's not the greatest. Looks like their attacks are going quite well for them in China. Unluckily for us. Yeah, they got one of my infantry before they had to retreat, so that's awful for them. Great for us. And they almost failed to do like a little Pearl Harbor attack as well. So I wouldn't call that so great from the Japanese player. As you can see kind of here, the Japanese lost an infantry and infantry. The attackers lost 2 fighters and 2 infantry. Yeah, some major losses for the Japanese there. I mean, really kind of rough for them. Alright, now it's America's turn. So what I like to do as America is either focus the Pacific theater or to focus the European theater. And I think I will focus the European this game, because we've kind of already whittled the Germans a little bit, and Japan is really making some kind of poor moves, I feel. So I am going to target the Germans. So in this, I am going to purchase some more transports. And I am also going to purchase an aircraft carrier, since the one we had just got demolished. It's always important to keep your navy up in the Atlantic, because the Germans just have kind of an overpowering amount of aircraft here. At least they should. I don't know where their other planes went. I think they might have lost them in Sea Zone 7 at the beginning of the game. So kind of just a split there of sea units and land units. Planes is also an option, because you can fly them across, land them in the UK, but you have to have ground units to go with them, so we might buy some planes in some later turns. And then the thing about the US is they really don't have much combat to do. Well, actually, there is a sitting duck of a plane right there that is not protected, so we are going to go all in on that guy to try and take him out. The less Japanese planes there are on the map, the much better for the Allies. So we are going to attempt to take that guy out. And then I think we're actually going to go in on North Africa here to help out our British buddies. So this bomber is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I could go 5, 6, and then land him on this Gibraltar territory, which I think is what I'm going to do. He's gonna go along with that. And then you also have to watch, can any planes get there? Well, we see there's 1 plane in Germany, 2 planes in Ukraine. So the planes could go 1, 2, 3, 4, but then they wouldn't have anywhere to land. Or they could go 1, 2, 3, but if we take this territory right here, the plane won't have anywhere to land. So we're safe there with our transports. So I think that's the combat I want to do. Finalize that. And then we'll start here in Morocco. Great roll. Got 3 hits, and there's 3 units, so those will get taken out. And no hits on the counter roll. Perfect. Alright, same in Kwangtung. Perfect result. We will take that. 10 down for the Germans, 10 down for the Japanese, and none down. No casualties taken. That is a great turn. We'll take it for sure. So now, just kind of going to start moving stuff around to the Atlantic side of things, where we're going to do most of our actions. It's going to take things a few turns to set up, but should be okay in the long run. This plane is going to go quite far into Russia. Actually, I'm going to put him in India. I could put him back into China, but both of these territories can be attacked by Japan on their next turn, so I'm probably going to pass on that. I want this plane to be out of danger. Alright. I can't really be hit by anything Japanese except for in Alaska, and that's fine, I feel like, so it's probably going to conclude those actions. And then we'll put the reinforcements on the eastern coast of the United States, and we will call that a day for the Americans. Now we're back to the Russians. This is the second round of play. We've done a full loop. So for the Russians, kind of going to do a similar buy to last round. They're going to be really infantry heavy because of just this kind of line here on the western front, eastern front, where Germany and Russia meet. Okay, so a big thing to look for in this game when you're looking for the offensive side of things is you want to look for high dollar units that are mostly by themselves. So if you look in Karelia here, the Germans have 3 tanks and 1 infantry. So as I talked about earlier, the infantry are kind of the shield, because you can kill off the infantry first so that your high dollar like swords, like the tanks, live another day. So the AI is not doing a very good job at that here. And he's kind of leaving his 3 tanks out to dry, especially when they're bordered by this Western Russia. All the big stack of guys I have in Western Russia, right? So I'm going to take advantage of this kind of misplay here, and I am going to destroy them. Also down here, this is a little bit better play. 4 infantry, 2 planes. It's another kind of juicy looking thing, because that would almost completely eliminate the German Air Force. So there's kind of some options there. But I think I'm just going to hit Karelia and just try and completely eliminate these tanks and let these planes live another day. It's kind of sometimes better to make sure you do something really well rather than making sure you do a few things like partially well, I suppose. So I'm going to go in with a pretty considerable force here. I also have to think that I don't want to go in with too much, because the stuff that I do put here can be counterattacked by all the Germans in these neighboring territories. So whatever I put there might die, but I need to get rid of these tanks, right? So if you look here, we have 3 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, to 1 2, and 3 3s. The game says that we're strong, that we're going to win this. I also think we're going to be fine, but I'm probably just going to... I'm going to send another infantry and artillery just to make sure, because I really want to win this. I really want to get rid of these tanks, because they're kind of a pain to deal with on the offensive and defensive side of things. And I think that's going to be our only attack this turn. Alright, great roll. Great roll. So everything's already dead. We got rid of those 3 tanks. We'll look at the counterattack. 2 hits is fine. Okay, so we profited big there. 6 IPC loss for the Russians, 21 IPC loss for the Germans, and we took our victory city back. I am not upset about that at all. So, in my non-combative maneuver here, I'm going to continue moving these troops back toward Russia. I think I'm also going to pull this guy back. Kind of just consolidate this front here. I'm going to further fortify. Kind of just further fortify Western Russia and the Caucasus. These two both need to be rock solid, as they're kind of my defense of Moscow. And then the sub can consolidate, and that's about it for the Russians. Move on to the mobilization phase, where we can put our units down on our factories. And as you'll notice, we don't have an option to put them down in Karelia. Every time you capture a new factory, even though technically it's not new, since we already owned it in the beginning of the game, we have to wait a full turn before we can put stuff down there. So I maxed out Caucasus, and I put the remaining ones in Moscow, and we'll call that a turn. So this should keep our front pretty safe against the Germans. I doubt they attack, but you see here they are counterattacking in Karelia, which is okay. Kind of expected that. I didn't really expect these troops to live, and they're attacking here, both of which I kind of expected and prepared for, so it's not a terribly big deal. Actually putting up a really good fight here in Karelia. Wow, they did not take the territory. That is quite a large win actually for the Russians. Not only did we keep the territory, we really whittled down the units that went there and destroyed a lot of them. Alright, so now as the British player, again, we kind of had to focus on our two fronts here. So India's looking weak in the Navy department, but pretty fortified. And the Germans are kind of in a weak state right now, so I'm going to continue to press at the Germans. So I'm by 3 infantry for India, and then the rest is going to get dumped into the Atlantic again. So now that we have a Navy kind of set, I'm going to buy some transports and then buy some land units for these transports. That's going to be our buy. So I want to focus on Scandinavia now. As you can see, there's kind of a split. Since we've held Karelia, there's kind of a split between Scandinavia and then the rest of mainland Europe. So I'm going to try and claim Scandinavia. After I do that, it's going to be really difficult for the Germans to come back and get that. They're going to have to go through Karelia first. So I am going to take my planes and my bomber, load up this tank on this transport, and attack that. Now, everything that I've said, this kind of goes against so far, because, well, the tank with the planes are all high dollar value, and I don't really have my shield that I was talking about, right? But I feel like that this is such a strong positional advantage to have Scandinavia all to myself with no German retaliation that I really kind of just want to wipe these infantry off the map. So that's kind of why I'm making this choice. Also, I have the opportunity to take the sub out while I'm here, which is a bonus that I might as well do while I have the chance. So, as for the African side of things, I'm going to eliminate the Germans from Africa by making an attack here. And I think it's going to about conclude my plans for this turn. Well, actually, I'm going to send one of my guys to the Southern Europe territory here, because you can see it's not occupied by any German soldiers, so we're going to get that one for free. It's kind of just going to be another thorn in their side and kind of a why not type of deal. Alright. That's going to conclude our combat there. We're either strong or favorable in everything. Alright, we need this one to go well, which it should, because we have a 1 and a 2 versus the Germans having only a 1. Okay, we miss. They miss. We'll continue. We hit. And they miss. Perfect. Which there were low odds there for the submarine to hit. Had to roll a 1 on the dice. It's kind of difficult. So now we'll continue on to the Norway battle here. Now, if we get lucky, we can take it and keep our tank, but I don't necessarily need to do that. We'll just kind of see what happens. Okay, that is a lot of hits. So these guys are gone. Oh, perfect. Great roll. So now, as you'll see, we own Norway now, and there's no one in Finland. So we're going to get Finland for free as well. And then we can kind of start eating into these territories as well to really crush the German economy while bolstering our own. And that's kind of going to be the downfall of the Germans here. Speaking of that maneuver as well, we're also going to start doing the same thing in North Africa by cutting out the Germans. Alright, we got some good moves, and the Germans not so much. Another good win for us. 21 IPCs for the Germans and none for us. It's another great turn. We're getting good rolls. Good rolls and good play together win you games. So I am not upset about those outcomes at all. I'm going to move my subs up here to, or not my sub, my transport to set up for next turn. And then I'm going to move these ships here as well to set up for next turn. And we're kind of just going to bully the Germans on their coastal territories and just further help our Russian buddies to kind of invade them further. Then we're going to keep these guys on their little journey. Getting pretty close now. They should be able to get in the action in a turn or two. And then kind of do the standard 3 guys for India. And then everything else is going to go into Britain. And I am going to call that a good turn. It's good progress. So the Japanese do very little. They take some more Chinese territories, but they're only worth 1. And quite frankly, I wasn't doing a lot with them anyway. And it's really kind of a thing to notice in these games. Like when you play the board game, I mean, it's pretty easy to notice that I'm targeting the German player, right? Like most of my things are going at Germany. Then the Japanese player has to see that, and they have to kind of get over-aggressive to kind of counteract what's happening to their German partner. That's kind of the only way to win for the Axis when these kind of strategies are happening. Because a 3-on-1 is obviously not fair for the power. But if this power can kind of take advantage of that and then start eating up like these territories for Russia, maybe take India away from Britain, and then Africa especially, like then we're talking big retaliation from the Japanese, and then the game's kind of a toss-up. But if you kind of just sit back like they're doing, then it's over, quite frankly, and there's not a lot you can do. So again, kind of just continuing the strategy. Probably not nearly that many guys. We can focus on air a little bit. Kind of just gearing up to cross the Atlantic with as many guys as we can. And I think I'm going to take my first step into a victory city this turn. In the form of Italy here. Kind of just bully them as much as possible. And that is going to be it, because nothing else can reach anything this turn. The anti-aircraft gun gives a shot at my plane. It misses, because it rolls at a 1, so that's pretty difficult to hit. We end up taking out both. They get a hit back, but again, I'm really okay with that because we took the territory, and it's going to be a thorn in their side, and that's been the goal. So we need to land our plane somewhere. We'll just land in the UK. Move everything up into this Canadian territory, actually, East Canada, which is actually my big strategy. So if you notice, transports from the eastern coast of the US take 1 move, 2 move, and then they can't hit anything really, except for North Africa, but we already have it. But if we start from eastern Canada here, my transports can go 1, 2. They can hit France, and they can hit northwestern Europe, or they can go 1, 2, and then they can hit here with Norway and here with Finland. But we're probably not going to be exercising that this game because we already have it. So we're just going to be consolidating as many ships as we can in Sea-Zone 10 and consolidating as many guys as we can in Eastern Canada for the strategy. And I think that's going to be a wrap for this turn. No real worries from the Japanese. They're pretty far away with all their ships. So we're just going to keep laying on the eastern coast for now. Going quite well here. We have cut the Germans out of North Africa. We have cut the Germans out of Scandinavia. Now we're going to make a push for the mainland. So now is when I'll start going a little bit heavier into like my sword, as we call it. Artilleries and tanks, since we already have a lot of infantry. And then we're just going to push heavy. Everything we got, because there's no real German retaliation here. And the tanks have a cool move where they can actually blitz through open territory. So you notice there's nothing here in Belarusia. So we're going to push through here, and then we're going to end up in the Baltic states taking both territories, which is actually a really nice feature. And I got to start watching my backside a little bit because of these Japanese infantry, but there's really not that many of them, so I'm honestly not too concerned. And I mean, these 4 guys here, these poor dudes, they're probably just sitting in their little Ukrainian bunkers, just shivering in fear. And I don't blame them, because I got a little army on the way, and they're not going to stop it. Yeah, they're all dead. Well, hey, they got 2 on the way out, you know, it's respectable. Alright, so as the Sea of Red grows here in Eastern Europe, the German economy is going down incredibly far. The Germans made, well, shoot, I don't know, they didn't make a lot of money. Which is kind of the goal as well, because when they start buying less troops, you can outproduce them. Whenever that starts happening, they really get weak. So we're just kind of going to push further, with that being the goal, until we eventually hit Berlin. See what Germany does in retaliation. Okay, so they're hitting us back in Italy, hitting us back in the Baltic states, and they're hitting us back in the southeastern Europe territory. They're probably going to end up winning all of these, but again, it's fine. Like, that's really, the goal wasn't to keep them. The goal was kind of just to be a thorn and to take away money, which we still profited. All three of these territories profited Norway, and we profited North Africa. So we're still dwindling them down quite a lot here, while also getting money for ourselves. They're also not buying many infantry, which is a problem for the Germans, because they're risking all their high dollar stuff, and it's really just not something that they need to be doing. So I don't know how I feel about that for them. Anyway, I'm going to focus barely at all on India again, because we're just doing so well in the Atlantic. So that is the maximum amount of units we can buy to fully load our transports. This guy's going to blitz through Finland, taking it for the British, which is what we want. And then there's 2 undefended tanks here, so I think we're going to target them and try and take those out. There's also 6 undefended tanks. That is a very juicy target. I think I'm actually going to go after that. Do I have the stuff for that? I think I can manage. All of my planes can reach, and then I can take... Oh shoot, I only have 1 transport here though. Okay, I want to see what the game gives this. Okay, the game says we're favorable. I think I'm going to take this attack. Even if this attack fails, I have the Americans to fall back on. The Americans can make a small attack as well to clean up whatever's left. So I think that's going to be the play for this turn. And that's all I'm going to do, because that's a really big play. Alright, we'll see how this goes. Wish us luck. With our luck this game, should be a breeze, but you know, you never know. Alright, initial hit. That's great rolls. That is a really great roll. So they have 1 tank left after this. And they got really bad rolls. Wow. 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 We hit everything. We didn't even need to, but... Okay, that was a amazing result. As you can see here, we lost 9 IPCs, they lost 36. Beautiful result. That's the type of stuff you want to be seeing. And we took out all those German tanks there. Yeah, that's big. Going to shift my navy to the Sea Zone 8 area. I think I'm going to prepare to land in France next turn. I have a lot of infantry that can get there. So I think that's going to be the goal. And these guys are finally making it in the area, and they can hit France on the next turn as well. Things are looking up here in the Atlantic. Stuff's happening. Max out the factory in Britain. Max out the factory in India. Get some more guys on the board. See what Japan does. So Japan is just now getting into Eastern Russia, and they have just now conquered all of China. It's really late, honestly. It's too little too late, and I just feel that it's really not going to make that much impact at the point we're at now. I feel like the AI has sold the ball in a few different parts. Drop the ball. Yeah, that is not a phrase. Sold the ball. I was I was trying to say either sold the bag or dropped the ball, and yeah, sold the ball. You know, that might be a new one. I made up something new. Feel free to use that one. Oh. Well, kind of just going to go back to the old bread and butter here. Oh my goodness. I can't talk now after that. Gonna go back to the old bread and butter here with the United States. Not gonna really change up too much. And I will kind of do what I was talking about. I will take this Italy for free. Kind of the American counterattack I was talking about to a certain degree. And I will take that for free since there's no defenders. I think that's all I want to do. Which isn't really much, but then again, we're still kind of preparing. So we'll move everything up here again. And this is kind of going to be the turning point here in Europe. I'm gearing up here for like a 1-2 punch type of thing. So I'm going to hit him with the British in France, and then I'm going to hit him with the Americans in France. And that's going to really cripple him, and I heavily doubt he's going to be able to come back from this, or take France back, rather. Just going to spend heavily on our swords again. Maybe take a little bit of a risk here in the Baltics to get rid of these tanks, since at this point we can afford a lot more casualties than the Germans can. And, okay, so taking Poland here with these 17 troops, we're going to have 17 troops on Berlin's border next turn. That is big. And that should be really scary for the Germans. They were pushing so far into Europe here. Again, this is kind of the risking my high dollar stuff because he has a chance to hit my planes here. But I honestly think it's worth it just to continue to cripple this German force here. And we got both of the tanks. And he only takes one hit. So we can just take that off our artillery. And look at that. We profit. Now we get our planes to safety. We further crippled the Germans. All is well. And the Italians are starting to creep in, but like I said earlier, when they get there, I fear that Berlin will already be fallen. There won't be anything to do. Germany did not even make a combat move. Wow. That is insanely surprising. So they're just going full turtle mode. Well, they didn't go turtle mode enough because we're about to open this puppy up. Just going to load up on infantry and artillery again. And we're about to hit them with what we got. Okay, I don't know why it's not letting me do that. There we go. basically every single unit we have that can get there is going to go to France this turn. And if we don't take it, we're sure going to weaken it a lot. And then after this, they're going to have every single one of these units in France from the UK and America. They're also going to have all these Russian units in Poland. And there's going to be about nothing the AI is going to have to do to stop this. It's kind of going to settle the game, I would say. We should take this considerably easy, I would say. Although we might lose a plane because the AA gun is going to get 3 shots. Wow. We faced our first bad luck of the game. We lost 2 planes there. That is unfortunate. Hopefully the rest of this battle goes pretty smoothly. And wow, we got some good hits there. 5 of our 8 dice on the 2s hit, which is pretty irregular. We will take it. The Germans got a pretty decent roll themselves. We'll just take it off all infantry and continue. And we managed to take everything else out. No more casualties for us. Awesome. As you can see, we lost 2 planes in the beginning, which amounts to 20 IPCs, but we still profited. The Germans still lost more than we did, which is really phenomenal. So we'll keep 1 plane here, 1 plane here, just to protect our stuff. Bomber's going to go back to Britain. I think that's just going to about conclude us for this turn. Japan still kind of beginning to pester us a little bit. They got a lot of territories that turn. But again, like I said, they've got too little too late. We're going to be able to just put stuff here in Russia and defend quite nicely. It's really not going to be an issue. And we're so far on the Germans that it's really just no big deal at all. I wonder if anybody's still watching. I know that I don't know. This game's definitely not for everyone, like these massive scale board games. I just personally love strategy games and love these types of games, and you know, I like the creativity games like Minecraft as well. Like the games that Alan and I have been playing, but I don't know. I also love the thought producing games. They both have a special place in my heart. If anybody wants more of this, just comment and I'll make another one. I'm always down for these types of videos. Or if anyone wants to, they have this game and they want to play me, comment. And I'll play. I am down for anything when it comes to this game. Alright, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to make an attack. Probably not. I think I am just going to do what I talked about and dump everything that I have into France as well to bolster the British. Okay, crap. Take these transports out for now. I'm going to move these guys first and then the transports can come. And then all my other ships can go. All the capital ships. And then the planes can fly over there as well. And there is absolutely no chance they're going to be able to take this back. I mean, I guess I should never say never, but there's a very small chance I would say. Ooh, I forgot. We also kept Italy, so we can use this factory. Just put a few guys there. They're probably going to die, but sacrifices have to be made sometimes. Alright, like I said, might just dump a few guys into Moscow so it can't be taken by the Japanese, but I'm really not worried about that much. And I actually think we just have so many more infantry. I think we might be able to get this. Hold up here. What's it saying? Favorable. Well, I think I will not pass up on that opportunity, and I will go for that this turn. We're going to see just what that does for us. And if we get that, that is basically going to close out the game. Oh, we end up losing a plane. That's tragic. That's really going to hurt us. Okay, some pretty decent hits there. We're already into his artillery. Ooh, pretty decent rolls on his side as well. We're going to continue the assault. Okay, not bad rolls. Into his planes now, that's where we want to be. Get those big hitters out of the way. And he hits pretty good there at the end. I think we can still keep going though. Okay, 2 hits off his planes is always good. Ooh, he hits all 3. It's a little rough. Wow, we did it. We did it. The Germans are down. Wow. Massive, massive win. Massive win. Kind of just going to shift everything back to focus on the defensive side of things. I think he is going to be able to retake Berlin on his turn, but it's fine because I can just retake it on my British turn. Alright. There should basically be no chance of him taking Moscow now on his Japanese turn. Yeah, so, like I said, I bet he takes it back here. But it's really kind of a non-issue. Yep, and he does end up getting it there. No big deal. Heavy into infantry. We're actually going to be able to take every single German space in this game. You know, that's not something I can say very often about very many of my games. But it's going to happen this one. And I'm glad it happened with you guys. You know, if anybody's still watching, I don't even know how long this is going to end up being. Probably over an hour, to be honest with you. But if anybody's even still watching up at this point, I hope this was entertaining. It's been a good time for me, like I said. I mean, I'll probably never get bored of this game. Some people are probably wondering how that's possible, but I don't know. I just have an enjoyment for it. And I hope by this point in the video, you've got to understand the rules so it's not really too confusing. But yeah, as you can see, there is not a single bit of orange on, or not orange, gosh dang it. There's not a single bit of gray on this board. The Germans are completely knocked out of the game. Wow, that does feel good, you know? All right, that will conclude my turn. So, yeah, the Japanese are going to have to make a push into India or a push into Moscow. They're going to have to make some last-ditch effort to try and tip the scales of the victory cities. And they don't even go for one. Yep, it's over. It is over. We got our 10 victory cities, and it's about to be... Yeah, we don't even... I'm just going to skip through the game. Don't even have to do anything on our American turn. And look at that. Allies victory. We end up winning the game. That was a lot of fun. I, you know, I'm hoping that this kind of thing has some success. I know that it's obviously not going to be as popular as like Minecraft, but it's something I have some passion with. So I'd love to make like kind of a maybe just a little mini series on these type of games. Or if you want to see other turn-based strategy games, I play Civilization or like even chess. I would play chess. Any kind of those types of games, I would play them. If anybody found some interest in them, I just kind of don't know what would be popular. I mean, Minecraft's been hitting well for us, but I think we're probably going to try and branch out and try some different games here and there. That's going to conclude today's episode. Hopefully, you guys can join us for the next one. See ya.